There has to be a way to help people come into this program and career more prepared. Every single person has said, I did not know what I was getting myself into. Staying grounded, staying fresh and not burning out is really important.
This is the Future in Flight podcast, coming to you from a hangar somewhere near the flight line, where it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. You know that feeling when you're on vacation and you can't help but look left instead of right when you board the plane? When the travel itself becomes more exciting than the destination? That's where today's long-form interview begins. Luke Pylypciw got his first discovery flight at 15. By 17, he was flying veterans' homes up and down the East Coast, raising $15,000 for Hope for the Warriors. At 19, he became a certified flight instructor. And now, while pursuing dual degrees at Florida Tech, he's running Sky Scholar, a consulting service helping first-generation pilots navigate the sometimes confusing path into aviation. But what makes Luke's story worth telling isn't just the speed of his ascent, it's what he's doing with it. From Wings of Opportunity, giving underprivileged students their first taste of flight, to building communities through Alpha Eta Rho, Luke embodies something we talk about a lot on this show. Aviation isn't just about where you're going, it's about who you bring along for the ride. I'm Sean Starker, and today we're talking with a guy who proves that age is just a number when you've got purpose in your fuel tanks. All right, we've been trying to do this for a little bit. We've had a go around, and finally, here we are coming in for landing a guy that is just so amazing. He's a rising star. He's been up there in the atmosphere. He's coming back down for just a bit to talk to us here on the Future in Flight podcast, and that's Luke Pylypciw. Luke, I am so happy to have you join us here. You've got so many great stories. Your entry into aviation was pretty young in life. We're going to talk about that, talk about the amazing things that you're doing right now, and then we'll talk about what the future holds for you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. I'm excited to be here.
No more so excited than we are to tell this story. You have a heck of an aviation story. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. Where did that spark ignite for you in aviation?
Yeah, absolutely. So like many people, I think that really the beginning of my story was going on vacation and looking left instead of right when you get in the airplane. It was just being around airplanes, and traveling was really my favorite part of vacation. And so that's kind of where it all began. And I had a very close family friend who was a corporate pilot, flown around the world and has had a lot of experience. He always kind of told me about what he was up to, about his career, his job. And I always thought it was so interesting. So I finally just kind of pestered him enough where he gave me a discovery flight for my 15th birthday. I took that, and about 2 months later, I started training, and the rest is history.
That is the history that I really want to delve into, because at 15 and 16, there are high school obligations. There's academics going on. There's a lot that goes into life. But then you add on pilot training, private pilot training. How did you balance those challenges?
It definitely was a lot. And I think that really what it boils down to is the same principles that I adhere to today, which are prioritizing what's the most important thing to you. So at the time, I saw a lot of my friends having a lot of fun, enjoying high school, which I very much did. And I was an athlete. I played sports my whole academic career. I was always an honor roll student and did well in accelerated classes. But ultimately, my interest and what was most important to me was flying. And so what a lot of my days looked like was school, practice, and then study or go to the airport. And one of the kind of unique things that allowed me to not feel super rushed is getting that early start, is having that full year before I turned 16 to prepare for a first solo, which is more than enough time. So I really wasn't flying all that often, once every couple weeks, and that kind of kept me proficient enough to still be in the loop and prepare well enough.
Tell us a little bit, as a first-generation pilot, how'd you navigate convincing your family to support such an ambitious pastime or pursuit?
So at first, I think that my family was definitely hesitant, and I'm very fortunate to have gotten some support from my parents early on in that flight training journey, but it didn't come at a cost. I had to prioritize school and what mattered most. I had to make sure that I was getting good grades, and scholarships definitely helped. But I think that after they saw me on aviation, and kind of not let up for multiple months on end, they knew that it was a little bit different. Unlike kind of some other interests that every kid goes through, where you like something for a little bit and then you forget about it. That wasn't aviation for me. It was very much 0 to 100, and it didn't go away at all.
Full throttle, heels to the floor. You're an aviation guy. Tell us about your grades in high school. Were you somebody that just got by, just kind of did enough to fit in all these activities? Or were you somebody who excelled in all of the things that you did?
If I put my time into it, I always did fantastic. And I always made sure to do well in high school and focus on grades and stay involved. But one of my greatest challenges is when I was sitting in English class having to read this, an old essay. It's like, man, I could be flying right now. I could be studying right now for my check ride. Like, this stinks. And so I think my greatest challenge was just getting done what I had to do in order to get to college and get to the point I'm at now.
That speaks volumes about who you are. That definitely speaks to what your capacity for prioritizing the work is right there. That's a very astute answer. So let's talk a little bit about being not only the youngest member, let's talk about first being a member of the Goodrich Flying Club at the Greater Binghamton Airport. Tell me about being a member, and then tell me your perspective from being the youngest member of the Goodrich Flying Club.
Yeah, so the Goodrich Flying Club is where I learned to fly. I learned at the Goodrich Pilot Training Center. Then they have the Flying Club, which has a Mooney, late 70s model, or maybe early 80s model Mooney, I forget, that I was able to join right after I got my private. And that community, Doug Goodrich, who's the owner, I can't say enough good things about them. It's why I encourage everybody to always get out to their local airport and meet people in their local community. That's ultimately going to be the foundation of your network. But Doug supported me from day one. He always stopped what he was doing to talk, to ask how training was going, to let me know if I need anything. His office door is open. And so that flying club was really what I attribute so much of my passion that I carry to, because I was able to have so much freedom as a young person. I was able to get dropped off at the airport before I was even legal to drive to the airport, and then fly the airplane solo to lunch and back. And then my mom would have to pick me up when I was done. So it's just such a cool environment to be in. And they were exceptional. The whole team there, it's growing exponentially. They're a Sling build center now. They just announced another kit airplane that they're building. I mean, they're absolutely growing at a massive rate. It's awesome to see because they deserve all that success.
It sounds similar to your great ascent in that good people have great things happen to them. And that's just what I'm seeing here unfold. It's nice to see a theme so early in this interview. I can't wait to tackle some of those really deep questions here a little bit later. Yes, we have some heavy lifting to do here, Luke. So we're going to talk about Florida Tech. Why did you choose that for the aviation program? And how has the Space Coast kind of shaped who you are, influenced, molded you in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in high school, because I started my flight training in upstate New York, which is where I grew up, I saw what the weather looked like year round. And I very quickly kind of started to think, I know how much I could fly right now. And okay, let's try to crank it up. What if I want to fly 5 times this because I want to get my ratings quickly? That's going to be pretty tricky. And so I quickly realized that I needed to move, and I wanted to. I grew up in a small town. There isn't a ton of opportunity for aviation careers where I'm from. And so I wanted to get out. I wanted to explore my opportunities. So I immediately looked to Florida. It's kind of the epicenter of flight training. It's where everything's happening. And so I immediately boiled down my options to the big collegiate programs that are in Florida, Florida Tech being one of them. I quickly realized that the diversity of Florida Tech is what attracted me. I have friends that are engineers, that are finance majors. I get to leave my job as a flight instructor, or a couple years ago as a student here, and I get to go back to my dorm or now to my apartment, and I get to talk to my friends who do other things. And like just last night, I'm sitting out on the bridge with my girlfriend and her family watching a SpaceX rocket launch. There's so many cool opportunities that are within aviation, but also keep you well-rounded and keep you refreshed, because when you're working as hard as you kind of have to in a collegiate program, staying grounded, staying fresh and not burning out is really important. And so that's what Florida Tech has helped me do very well.
Phenomenal answer, addressing the burnout that often happens. It's tough to get not only, private pilot's license on its face is pretty tough, but then you move into an academic program and you're talking ratings and the academic component. That's really tough. What other ways do you help address that burnout and try to decompress?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. And so what works for me isn't going to work for the next person. And I have friends that I look at and I shake my head and I'm like, I don't know how you possibly are here right now and can fly safely, but kudos to you. And so for me, it's really just going back to the basics, moving your body, getting outside, getting some sunlight, putting away the screens, putting away the homework, and just grounding yourself in basic stuff, enjoying where I'm at. I'm in sunny, beautiful Florida, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the beach, enjoying the pool, and just even if it's an hour, 30 minutes of the day where I can put that stuff away and just take a few deep breaths, that's what helps me, and really dividing up that time. When I'm at work, I'm thinking about nothing else but work. When I'm flying, it's nothing else but flying. But when I'm relaxing, I am not thinking about flying or work at all. And so that division really saves me.
Straight chilling. That's a guy
Yes.
that knows how to unplug. I like that. That's a great thing. I want to get to some of your achievements, some of the accomplishments that you've had and that you've been able to put together, because they're very, very unique, including the name on this one. We'll talk about the Loop for the Troops. That's a massive undertaking at, 18 years old?
Yeah, I think at the time I was 17, maybe 18. But Loop for the Troops was an awesome project that I talk about frequently to this day, and I'm very proud of. So after I got checked out in the Mooney post-private pilot, I had about a year before I came to flight school in Florida. And when you go through the collegiate flight programs, you can't come in with any rating except your private. If you do, you won't be eligible for your restricted ATP certificate. And so I was kind of just hanging around, flying around and building time. I got to explore most of the Northeast. I got to fly with a bunch of friends, check out a bunch of cool stuff. But I eventually got a little bit bored and I wanted to do something that was meaningful. My grandpa, who was a World War II veteran, had kind of big impact on our family. And I wanted to do something relating to honoring veterans and working with them. And so that's where the idea really originated. And so what I ended up doing is partnering with a great nonprofit organization called Hope for the Warriors. They support post 9/11 combat veterans. And I was able to raise $15,000 to put towards that charity and fly what was supposed to be a loop, but weather more made like a trapezoid kind of figure around the east coast of the country. I was able to make a trip around, visit some veterans' homes, out discounts to a bunch of products of companies that sponsored me, and it was such a neat experience. It was really great.
Tell us a little bit about how you leverage social media, including YouTube and Instagram, to amplify this mission.
Absolutely. So I started making YouTube videos kind of as a personal documentary, just to document what I was up to and watch my flights back and see how I can improve. It wasn't ever meant to be something that I wanted to grow and become an influencer or anything like that. And I actually haven't uploaded on YouTube in a little while because I've been so busy. What I ended up doing is kind of just throwing my mission out there on my YouTube channel, which amassed, roughly 5,000 followers. And the mission behind putting it on social media was to really inspire the next generation and show kids, because that's where they are, social media, that you can do things to improve the world and that causes you care about while doing what you enjoy doing. I was flying an airplane and getting to fly up and down the coast, and it was incredible. And that's what I love. And at the same time, I got to raise a pretty substantial amount of money for an incredible organization. And if you can combine those two things, meaning with passion, the opportunities are endless. And so I wanted to put that on display for as many people who are interested watching it. And I'm really glad that got out there, because I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people who have been touched by that and who have started their own projects from it. And that's always super inspiring to hear.
You mentioned that is no small amount of money. It's right around $15,000, I understand.
Yep.
And again,
Yep.
17, 18 years old. This is amazing. You're presenting it kind of was a big check. So what was it like presenting that big check?
It felt almost surreal. Well, it felt surreal for a few reasons. One, because 18-year-olds really don't use checks anymore, but also because it was such a just neat experience that had a lot of buildup. And I worked so hard for it for so many months that when we dropped it off in Virginia. When we finally got to Virginia, where Hope for the Warriors is headquartered, and they met us out there with their branded van and a couple representatives that I had been coordinating this with for months. It was just so neat. And it kind of all came together. It took me a while for it to sink in. And I think still it's taken a few years to really understand, that's pretty neat. And it definitely is cool to look back on. And it's not the last thing that I'll do with it. That's for sure.
Well, there it is. So you answered that as well. So there are some some future intentions that could be coming up. That's fantastic. Were there any nerve-wracking moments that you had during your flight? Anything of concern? Any interesting moments during that flight?
So I took my dad with me, and I couldn't convince him to let me take him by myself down on the trip. And so I had a buddy who was a flight instructor come along with us just to make sure we had another set of eyes. It was my first time doing that kind of longer flight. And so it was pretty uneventful, which I was very thankful about, but nothing that we couldn't deviate around or handle safely. So luckily it was a very, very smooth trip.
My favorite kinds of flights are really
Yes.
straight, level, and very uneventful.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm about the most boring aviator on the planet. I am low, slow, straight, level, very uneventful. But let's party when we get there. Let's all hang out. And I love that you mentioned aviation as a travel vehicle. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Let's get into one of these other feathers in your cap, if you will, the wings of opportunity and the community impact that can be had with aviation. So tell us a little bit about Wings of Opportunity and how did you make that selection process for the students at that event?
Yeah, absolutely. So Wings of Opportunity is the philanthropy program that I started for an aviation fraternity that I joined when I came down to Florida Tech. Alpha Eta Rho is it's a national aviation fraternity. There's over 60 chapters across the country. Florida Tech's chapter is the largest in the country, which is super neat. So I was elected to be the vice president of that chapter last academic school year, so 23 to 24, and we didn't have a philanthropy program, so I started one. And the mission behind Wings of Opportunity is to provide underprivileged students in our area, which is Brevard County, Florida, with a day of aviation exposure. We had those kids essentially write an essay as to why they're interested in aviation, why they want to pursue a career in STEM. Their teachers had to write them a letter of recommendation and kind of introduce that professional world to them as well so that they can, first time that they see, oh, what's a letter of recommendation? Oh, I have to write an application essay, kind of gets them warmed up for their future. But we were able to sift through those, pick the kids that really would benefit the most from what we were offering. And we took, I believe 6 or 7 students up for a discovery flight around Melbourne. We had guest speakers from multiple legacy cargo and regional airlines come in, gave them lunch. We did a tower tour. We did a airport rescue facility, the fire rescue facilities tour. We took them behind the scenes in the terminal and they got to see baggage and security and all that from behind the scenes. So just full 3D exposure to the industry, an experience that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And that is, I'm proud to say, a continued tradition. So it's actually happening in about another month here.
Phenomenal. Really well done on that. What's it like watching the energy of these high schoolers take their first flight or meet somebody from one of these legacy airlines or be behind the curtain at an airport?
Yeah, it's the same reason that I give for why I enjoy flight instructing so much, is that seeing somebody who has always dreamt about becoming a pilot get up in the air, fly an airplane for the first time is one of the coolest moments ever. And then to actually be able to turn them into a licensed pilot is the second most cool thing. So it's the same thing whenever I get the opportunity to bring somebody that's never been exposed to aviation and that may otherwise not have the opportunity to, those are the ones that are really special because I see it as if I can inspire somebody to even work a little bit harder in school or pursue something greater or think that they can do more than they originally thought, that's worth it to me. And I get all the gratification that I need and I could sleep well at night knowing that at least one person is going to push a little bit harder because of the experience that we were able to get.
Well, you've helped quite a number of people's and judging by your refreshed look, you've been sleeping pretty good at night.
Thanks. I guess so.
Well, let's talk about some of the ways that you really impact financially with this Wings of Opportunity. I understand that there's, again, a financial component, so we're raising money again. What's one of the ways that you're using to raise money for Wings of Opportunity, and where does that money go? How does that help the students?
Yeah, sure. So like many big aviation organizations, NBAA, EAA, any of those, we raise the primary source of our revenue comes from our members on campus. So in order to be a member of Alpha Eta Rho on campus, you have to pay annual dues, and part of that funds the Wings of Opportunity mission. In addition, we bring in outside sponsors. So last year we had 2 title sponsors, Roll-On and Jetaviva, who were able to sponsor the program. We were also, thanks to Jetta Viva and Emily Deaton, able to offer a $500 scholarship to one of the students. So that was a really cool opportunity.
That's absolutely phenomenal. That's really not only starting the philanthropy and showing the industry, but now you're helping offset financial costs, which in aviation can be fairly substantial. And you have some insight into that and are able to help youth find some ways to kind of mitigate that. Let's talk a little bit about Sky Scholar and what you're doing there. What inspired you to launch it? Where'd you get the name? It's a phenomenal name, by the way. It's really rich. And how has it evolved?
Yeah, so when I came and started flight instructing in Florida, I've been so fortunate to work with dozens of students from around the world, airline cadet programs from numerous foreign airlines, people from every state in the U.S. I mean, just so many people. Going back to that reason I came here, the diversity, I've been able to learn so much from my students, and I do freelance on the side a good amount, so I've learned from those students as well. And the one commonality, the one thing that I always asked that not a single person to this day has answered, not correctly, but said, yeah, I knew what was going on. Every single person has said, I did not know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know about whether it was cost, whether it was timeline, whether it was rigor of courses. There was some part of flight training, which they should have, and not their fault. It's just the information wasn't given to them, and rightfully so. It's kind of confusing. The information wasn't given to them. They didn't estimate their cost properly, and now they're in a sticky financial situation, or they didn't realize that flying can be very difficult. And when you want to be a professional pilot and you're held to the standard in a collegiate program or an accelerated course, it does get stressful at times. And I thought that was crazy that every single person I worked with all was the same. They all said the same thing. And I was like, there has to be, this is a $250,000 degree.
Let's take a quick break from this conversation to tell you about one of our wonderful show supporters. Want to upgrade your travel gear for free this holiday season? The 25 Days of Flightsmiths is on, featuring 2 amazing grand prizes, a pair of awesome flight sunglasses, and an incredible bull bag travel bag. Visit futureinflight.com/flightsmiths to enter. Really want to win? Get a massive 6-entry bonus by subscribing to both our podcast and Wonder Women of Aviation. And don't forget to share. Referring a co-pilot gives you 5 extra entries every single time. Find the contest link and full details in the show notes. Good luck and Merry Flightsmiths to all. And now, back to the conversation.
There has to be a way to help people come into this program and career more prepared and have the knowledge that they need so they don't show up on day one confused. And that's really where Sky Scholar was born, it's how can I help the most amount of people who were me 3 years ago, the first generation pilot that knew nothing about aviation, break into flight training and really have a blueprint for their early on career. There's companies that'll help you get a job. There's plenty of organizations that'll give you the initial spark and let you know that you're passionate and now you have that dream. But how do we actually tangibly turn your dream into reality? That's what Sky Scholar does.
Phenomenal resource for helping people climb out. It is to break into aviation really just seems to be a mammoth effort, and any help along the way is phenomenal. Do you have any success stories you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually worked with one of the first people that I worked with, it was incredible, is a career-changing adult. So I originally launched Sky Scholar really to aim at the younger generation. But one of the best ones that I like to tell people about is this individual that came to me and that has a family, has a full-time job, and is later on in his life, but wants to become a pilot and isn't happy with the current professional position he's in, and didn't really have the time or energy to deep dive into all of the options and complexities of aviation. And how they explained it to me is, even if I do look at this, even if I do spend the weeks and weeks and reading every forum and every website and touring all these schools, I still may make the wrong decision because I don't know what questions to ask. And so I would rather work with somebody like Sky Scholar to just do it for me. And so now that individuals got the school that works best for them, work together on some financing strategies, figuring out what financing options are best for them. I'm not a financial advisor, but I could definitely tell you what's going to work and what isn't as far as baseline. And now they're going to go on and be able to effectively finish up their job, enter aviation, and do it smoothly and hopefully as stress-free as possible.
That's really a great story because it addresses another side of aviation. We talk about students, but there are also folks, many folks, who are choosing aviation as a second career, as a career change. And for them, as with anybody, time is money. And that works on both sides. To have to research that takes time. Takes away from their job, their family. For you, time is money. Your efforts are going to net some additional insights into how to save or gain money. And so it is a great way for not only high school students, college students, but also these later in life adults, career change adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've said that aviation is a pathway to a purpose. What does that mean, and how do you instill that mindset in people that you work with?
For me, if I didn't find aviation, I wouldn't be nearly as involved in my community and have done the things that I've done. If I went to school for business, I love business, I own a business, but I wouldn't have been nearly as passionate about it. And aviation being my passion is what's really allowed me to push myself and explore other opportunities. And so what I always tell people is that becoming a pilot and getting a career in aviation is absolutely fantastic thing. Not only because you get to do what you love, but you also have time to pursue other interests. And you also have time to be involved in your community and in literally whatever you want to be in. If you want to work your rotation and go home and not do absolutely anything, you can. And that's completely fine. But if you have another interest, if you have a hobby, if you have another passion, if you want to run a podcast, if you want to start a company, you can do all of those things. And so aviation not only allows you to pursue that passion, which is flying, it gives you the outlet to have time in your life and also have the financial backing in your life as a pilot to go out and pursue those other interests. And so that's what I always encourage people, and I always tell people because they don't always think about that. But at some point, you may get a little bit bored of flying. And that's not bad. It's just a nature of anything you do. If you do one thing for 45 years, there's going to be one flight in that career where you're like, ugh. And that's totally normal. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't become a pilot. That doesn't mean that you don't like aviation still. It just means that you are allowed to be well-rounded as a pilot, and this is a very unique industry where you can be.
Absolutely. We just, in fact, finished up an interview with Shannon Peterson, who is the regional sales director for Textron. She's a gal who was a flight test director. She helped develop the Cessna Sovereign, the Citation Sovereign. So she's had these great stories about developing the aircraft and flying King Airs, and now going and selling them and helping match people with the tool that best fits their business or that travel item that best helps them get to their family's adventures. So there's such a wide spectrum within pilot and within the aviation industry that, hey, once you're in, and these other opportunities crop up all the time, as we talk about, just like the opportunity to fly a Mooney when you come right out of pilot training, or some of the other complex aircraft that you've flown, like maybe a Piper Lance. You've even got some stick time in a Cirrus Vision jet, of course, side stick time. What's your favorite plane to fly, and why is that?
This past summer, I have to just be biased. I was able to intern with RTX Corporation in Bradley, Connecticut, and they have a few Gulfstreams, G600s, and Falcon 2000s. I was able to do a simulator evaluation in the Falcon sim in flight safety in Teterboro, and that was incredible. I was definitely holding on by the tail during that flight, but it was not in the actual airplane in a sim. I got to jump seat on all the other jets, but actually being at the yoke, the Falcon is pretty sporty and really fun to fly.
I tell you what, the Falcon's a beautiful aircraft, and Teterboro is a phenomenal airport too. So there's a lot of adventure right within that one story. So let's talk about your academic pursuit at Florida International. Now you're pursuing dual degrees, not just looking for one thing in aviation. As we just talked about, a wide spectrum of opportunities. You're dipping in nice and early and getting all those opportunities. Tell us about the 2 degrees that you're pursuing and why you chose those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am majoring in aviation management with flight. I also am pursuing an associate's degree in air traffic control. And so what that allows me to do is, again, just have a more diverse skill set of aviation and what goes into it. The biggest thing that ATC has helped me with is vectoring my own students when we're doing approach flights. So it's been great to see kind of that other side and understand when I click the file flight plan button, what's happening behind the scenes and maybe what I can do to help out a controller, make their life a little bit easier, and in return, get what I want and get the request I want. And so there's a lot of options when you go the collegiate route. And again, that's really why I started Sky Scholar, is to help people navigate those. Aviation management gives you that background in the business side of aviation. I still am going to graduate with a restricted ATP. I'm still taking aviation classes. I'm still in the core classes that make you a pilot. But instead of going on and taking more math and more meteorology, I go on and I take things like corporate finance, managerial accounting, management principles. And so you understand in my degree better how to lead a team, how to work in a corporate environment. And for me, being very much interested in corporate aviation and also having entrepreneurial endeavors, the management degree is much more fitting for me. It also provides a great backup if I, one, God forbid, lose a medical, or if I ever am not able to fly and need to work in aviation in a different capacity, I can very easily. We take airport design classes, airport planning classes. And so the consultants, all of those firms, they love people that major in aviation management. That's what's going to be a requirement for all those jobs. And so it really diversifies you outside of just the flight certificates.
Well, circling back around to that diversity of offerings at Florida Tech, rather, that you talked about as something that would get you outside of the aviation space. Here's that diversity of offering now complementing the aviation space. Really great choice. We can clearly see what it's done for you. So let's talk about technology. What is one piece of technology or an innovation that you're excited about in the aviation space?
Well, I have to say what's really neat is I'll give a shout out to Collins Aerospace, because that's one of the businesses that RTX owns that I was able to see. They have a futuristic flight deck, which is all I could really talk about because it's still being produced and confidential. But they're building the flight deck that's going to roll out in the late 2030s. And if you think about technology now, like what our Garmin units can do, Bluetooth uplink, what our avionics can do with autopilot, I mean, there's really advanced glass cockpits out there right now. If you multiply that by like maybe 30, that's what they're doing. And so I was able to go into their headquarters in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and see this flight deck and fly the simulator. And it was an incredible experience because it's stuff that you don't even think about. Like, where do your eyes actually go when you're in the, ergonomics? Like, where are your eyes actually looking? That's where exactly what you expect to be there is going to be there. Or what are you going to do at that exact point in time? The airplane already did it, or it already, it's just telling you that it's completed. And so I think that at least in my generation's lifetime, we're going to be flying with airplanes that are even more automated than they are now. They're not only going to be automated, they're going to be smart, and they're going to be very smart, and they're going to be more of a co-pilot than kind of a tool for us. And so I think a lot of people are scared about AI and autonomous flight and kind of pilots going away. I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future because of the legislative battle. But what I do see in the future is our workload being decreased and ultimately the operation becoming safer because we have more eyes on it. I don't see humans going away anytime soon, but that technology being rolled out where, hey, maybe instead of me doing the checklist, the computer will do the checklist. I'll just make sure it was done right. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. Now, you admire Gary Vaynerchuk's philosophy of fulfillment over paychecks. How does that guide your career choices and just your overall interaction with the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you put purpose first and you put people first, that profit and success will follow. I've always been a people-first oriented individual in my professional endeavors, and that's what I focus on. If you provide a good product and a good service to people and you help people succeed, you don't have to worry about any of the else. You don't have to worry about anything else because all the other success and financial success will follow. And so that's what I try to stick to with flight instructing, with my business. It doesn't matter. Whatever I'm doing, if I put people first, if I make sure that people that I'm working with are taken care of, they'll also take care of me.
Now, you've been quoted as saying you feel most alive when flying. For somebody that doesn't know what that is, explain it, please.
That's a really difficult question, but I'm glad you asked. So the feeling of being in the air is very relatable to pilots, but that is a hard question because if you haven't done that, how I can most closely relate that to is the feeling of calm and kind of serenity and just being in the place that you belong, that you feel most comfortable, and that you could look around and say, had to wake up early, maybe drank 2 or 3 coffees to get here, maybe studied a lot the few days before, had to pass a few check rides, but that sunrise is really beautiful and this is amazing. And that moment happens quite often for me, and it happens quite a lot. So that doesn't happen when I'm maybe walking into the lecture hall or whatever it may be. It's taking a standardized test if you're in high school. And so when you finally get to that point where that hard work does pay off and you've put in so much effort, at points you've probably thought about quitting and throwing it out, it's all worth it. That's the feeling that I get from when I'm up in the air. And when it happens quite often, that's when I think, you made the right choice.
Absolutely. Tell us one of the toughest challenges that you've faced in aviation.
I think one of the, by far, I'll give you one as a pilot and one on my entrepreneurial kind of endeavor side. As a pilot, it was balancing flight training and balancing everything else in my life. When I first came here, all I wanted to do, train, fly, nothing else. If you wanted to hang out with me, sorry, I'm busy, I'm flying. Or sorry, I'm busy, I'm studying. And that's just not sustainable. You just can't do that for a long time. And yes, I got through my ratings quick. Yes, I got hired as a CFI at 19. Yes, all these things. But that did come at a cost. And if I look back at that time, which wasn't very long ago, it was only a couple of years ago, I've really, really worked to improve on that balance. And it's okay to work hard and it's good to work hard, but you still have to make time for your family, make time for the people that you care about the most, take care of your body and make time for you. I mean, right now I'm young, I could sleep 4 hours and I'm good, but that's not going to be the case my whole life. And so that's the biggest challenge is not getting burnt out. I think that when you get in the race of get to the airlines or get wherever you want to go as quick as possible, hurry up, they'll stop hiring. It's so easy to just throw out everything else and only focus on flying. You got to take a step back and you got to just take a deep breath. You're going to be okay. The extra month it takes you to get your private is not going to determine whether or not you become that captain at United or not in the future.
I love it. Imagine being at the airport for months and months and months, and just learning that they have hangar parties. Actually,
yeah, right.
One of our individuals, right? You got to go to hang out as well. The people in aviation are just as phenomenal as the planes. As you're
absolutely
just an exemplary example of that. You are so rich in how you think about aviation, but then how you relate that to the world. I'm excited to see where your future takes you. You're a rising star, but I don't see you coming down anytime soon. Maybe except for this interview, and I appreciate again that you've done that. You ready for some fun stuff?
I'm ready.
Oh, I like it. All right, no sweat on the brow, came calm, cool, and collected. What is your favorite in-flight snack?
Oh, we're going Biscoff cookies dipped in coffee on Delta Airlines.
Oh, with the coffee. Dares to bring up coffee during a flight. That is my kind of, I like that kind of risky. Me, coffee and flying, especially as you get older, that's a kind of Russian roulette. But you're right, when you're young. So we've talked about some of the great aircraft that you have time in, that you've been able to pilot and be a part of. Tell us about your dream aircraft. If you could fly and if you could control any aircraft, right? If you could be the pilot in command of any aircraft that's ever existed, what would that look like?
That is so difficult. I think that I am such a Gulfstream guy. It's got to be whatever the new shiny Gulfstream is. So right now it'd probably be a G800. That'd be pretty sweet to get behind the controls of.
My goodness. Melted butter doesn't even begin to describe how smooth that thing is. So we're taking the biscotti and the coffee, which really is fitting for a Gulfstream G800. If you could take anybody throughout time, throughout history, if you could fly with them, who would you pick?
See, I'd say, I think I'm obligated to say my family, but they may get a little mad if I don't. No, I would want the airplane full of my family and friends. That's it. I would want that experience to be with them. I got to take it's a fun question, but it's also like, cool. Like I got to take my mom on the Gulfstream. Like it's the coolest thing ever to be able to do that. And so that's the people I want to be there.
Why have the useful load if you can't use it?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So we're up. We're jamming. We've got our biscotti, our coffee. I'm really excited. G800. All of us. It's a party. Last two questions. Where are we going?
So I did Europe the first time. I got to say somewhere tropical. I'm a beach guy. It's why I live in Florida. I like the ocean. So let's do like Maldives. We'll go there.
Nice. Okay. We've even got a little room. We could probably put some of the mask and snorkel, some fins. Now, what are we listening to up there? Give me your top 5 songs on that playlist up there.
So my music is all based on my mood. It really depends. I listen to everything. We'll have some sort of country song in there. I'm a big Chris Stapleton fan. We'll maybe put some classic rock in there, some AC/DC. May put some 50 Cent. I don't know, landing with 50 Cent in the background and a Gulfstream, maybe pretty cool. And I don't know, maybe another couple throwbacks. I do like old songs. I like old songs for sure.
I love it. That's a great playlist so far. We're shaping up. This is a great flight. I'm really excited about it. I see it happening here in the short future because a guy of your ambition, of your intelligence, and your desire to push forward in his community is only destined for great things. And I'm just right behind you, right? Caution, wake, turbulence. We're really excited to be a part of what you're doing here. And thank you for joining us on the Future in Flight podcast. What if people see you and they're like, man, this dude is absolutely cool. We want to reach out to him. How do they connect with you? How do they find you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in talking to me and working with me through SkyScholar, you could go to that website. So that's www.myskyscholar.com. You can also, if you're just interested in saying hi, touching base, I'd love to connect. I'm on basically every social. Shoot me a message on Instagram. It's my name, Luke Pylypciw, or I'm on LinkedIn. Love LinkedIn. You got to get on LinkedIn if you're not already on it, and be happy to connect there as well.
That is the business aviation guy talking right there. If you're not on LinkedIn, you got to get on LinkedIn because really that's where all the business happens. Hey. Cat videos are fun, but I'm not making any money from cat videos. LinkedIn is where you connect with the heavy hitters.
Luke Pylypciw, from that first discovery flight at 15 to building pathways for the next generation of aviators. You can connect with Luke on Instagram and LinkedIn, or visit his website at myskyscholar.com if you're ready to turn your aviation dreams into a flight plan. Luke, thank you for taking time out of your incredibly full schedule to share your story with us. Your passion for making aviation accessible, whether through Wings of Opportunity, Loop for the Troops, or SkyScholar, reminds us that this industry is only as strong as the people we inspire to join it. And to you, our listeners, thank you for flying with us today. If this episode inspired you, or if you know of a young person who needs to hear Luke's message, please subscribe to the Future in Flight podcast and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more future aviators, mechanics, air traffic controllers, and aviation professionals who just don't know it yet. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your wings pointed towards the future. We'll see you out there and up there.